Righty, welcome to the Rookie Reset. Now, you may be wondering, what the heck is a rookie reset? Well, folks, it would be evenings just like this, except your girl would be stressed the hell out because I could not manage my class. And quite frankly, I can figure out this whole teaching thing. So, what we do here on the Rookie Reset is provide you with practical tools, tips, and strategies to help you stay in the game because oftentimes new teachers quit too soon just because they are not getting the support they need. And so that's what we do here. We keep new teachers in the game. So, who the heck am I and why am I running my mouth? My name is Andrea Fitzgerald. You can just call me Fitz. But my first year, like I said, it was a whole disaster out here in these streets. So I just want to help new teachers stay in the game. And hence why I created, you see it, the Rookies Playbook, practical tools and tips to help you stay in this game. So today, y'all know we pre-gaming it. We still on our pre-game and we are getting ready for game day. We getting ready because it's around the corner, y'all. It's probably we about 2 weeks out over here where I'm from. It might be, I know, up north, it's later on in the year. So yeah, we're going to get ready for pregame. So today, friends, we are going to talk about creating your run of show. This is tip number 2 in the Rookies Playbook. And so it made me think about a few years ago, I was putting on this event for my tutoring clients. And it was the Friday before, or no, maybe it was Thursday before. And I was talking to my fiance and I said, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. Let me back up. She asked me, she said, hey, you got that event on Saturday. Tell me about what you have planned for it. And I said, well, I'm just going to get some pizza. I'm just going to execute and bring everybody in and celebrate. She said, so what are you going to do for what's the agenda? What's the theme? I didn't have any of that, y'all. None of that on the agenda. None of that I had planned. I just was going to pull up with my pizza boxes and have my event to celebrate my clients. And it probably wouldn't have been that strong. It probably wouldn't have been that good. So I ended up having to cancel that, reschedule it for a later date, so that I could actually do the prep work required to have this event. And it ended up being a great event. And she sat down with me and she helped me come up with a plan. And it turned out to be very, very good event. But I did not have what I call a run of show, meaning these are the objectives I'm trying to accomplish. And this is how I'm going to schedule out and structure out what the timeline of what this event is going to be like. So they do this a lot when you go to concerts. I know Beyonce, the Renaissance tour is a big thing right now. But before you even pull up to the concert and you ready, like, I don't want to get me tonight. And before you start singing Yo Beyonce and all of that and all those things, they have what they call a run of show whenever they put an event together. Okay, we're going to put the fire here. They're going to run this 2-step right there. So it's all these different things that are put in place before we even pull up to the door. And you want to think about that same thing in your class. And when I was a teacher, I had a similar challenge. I said, I'm going to pull up with my book. And that's going to be enough for me to execute on this lesson. And that wasn't actually the case. So I had to make adjustments. I had to map out what that time would actually look like. And so a couple of things that you want to think about as you start thinking about your own run of show, because everybody's not the same. I'm going to share with you my run of show, but that doesn't mean that this is the only way that you got to do it. Okay. But you want to think about number one, I would think about like your personality and who you are. Right. So for instance, my personality is I love sports, y'all. I love sports. And I was just kind of used to a certain structure in terms of my own preparation for things or a typical day. And so I broke my class down into quarters. That's what I did. I broke my class down in quarters. So I wanted to somehow incorporate sports in my class. You may say, listen, I'm not a super organized person, or I'm a person that likes to really connect when class starts. Like, just think about like your personality and who you are, because again, this is not a perfect way to do it. It's just, I'm going to share what worked for me, but that does not mean that that's the only way you got to do it. And then the other thing you want to think about, ideally, when you think about the vision of what a typical day in your class looks like, what ideally would you like to happen? Like, what is that? What's it like? Would you like them to come in, sit down, have a seat? Would you like them to, would you like to greet them at the door? Would you like to give them a high five? What do you want that typical day to look like? You want to close out 5 minutes before the bell rings or before you transition to the next class? Like, think about some of those things. Like, what ideally would you like for a typical day in your class to look like? So those are just a couple of things to think about. And in the future, I would probably even think about contingency plans. That's a whole nother day. But definitely, like, your personality, you want to bring that to the space because you want it to be organic to you. Like, I could tell you to do certain things, but you want it to fit who you are, right? And then just ideally, like, if you had it your way, what do you want that time to look like? So I'll tell you my runner show. I actually wrote it in the book. So the first thing, I broke my classes into quarters. Going back to that sports analogy, I played basketball, we had 4 quarters. And just like in a game, the first quarter is really about you kind of setting the tone. So that was more like my entry routine. So I had it in my classroom and this is, you almost want to think about this. This is kind of like not vague, but more general, like more general way of how you want to be. So for instance, the first quarter for me was around like the do now, taking care of incidentals, like, oh, I need to get my calculator, I need to sharpen my pencil. So I wanted students to enter my classroom the first quarter and they would complete 2 to 3 math problems. That's it. Handle the things you need to handle. Boom. Okay. Now, the second quarter was kind of, to me, the meat of the class. So this is the actual lesson itself. These are kind of like instructional activities, some concept development, questioning, modeling, guided press, all the things where we are actually diving into the lesson. So collaborative groups, discussions. And then the third quarter was either some type of, it could be, now we're actually putting it into work. So giving them time to work on grade level problems. And I didn't assign homework. We had this conversation in something I was talking about earlier, but I didn't assign homework because it never came back. Let me not say never, but most times it was like 2 out of 30 kids bringing back homework. I didn't really have evidence of what they know. So I use my class time as a place for me to get evidence of what my students mastered and where they need support. So my third quarter of my class was usually devoted to, I just want you to practice, work your problems. I'm gonna watch you, observe you, give you feedback. So, or either I might pull a small group during that time, work together, but that time was devoted to seeing what my kids actually knew. And then the last quarter of class was kind of the closing. So usually some type of exit ticket, maybe a discussion to land the plane of what we discussed today. And really to check for mastery. And often check in terms of checking for mastery, I would often look at it to like, I just used it as an opportunity to prepare for the next day. Okay, 20 out of 25 got it. Okay, this group had this part, they didn't have that part. Oh, this group definitely has all of it. So it just kind of allowed me to have real-time evidence of, we went through this entire thing, how did it go? So that's what I used my fourth quarter for. It wasn't that long. Now, after you think about ideally what you want that to look like, just in general, that's how I broke it down into quarters, but you can do it a different way. You say, you know what, actually, I like mine I want more sections. That's cool too. It's completely up to you. But this is just a general overview of, okay, this is what a typical day in my class looks like. Now, after you do that, you want to get even more specific. So when I talk about that first quarter, when students are just coming to class and they doing these 2, 3 problems, what does that actually look like? So here's a prime example for me. What is it? Let me back up. So not only that, but you want to time stamp it. So I want this to be 2 minutes. This is the actual activity we want to do. And so we want to get even more specific. So for instance, let's talk about my first quarter. So the timestamp, I said, was 2 minutes. I like to call it my pregame. So in this time, this is what I want to happen. They had 2 minutes to do it. Get your instructional materials, sharpen your pencil, grab your calculator, grab your notebooks, boom. That's it. That's 2 minutes. And on the right hand, I'm gonna share this little table with you. But on the right side, just any additional notes. So during that pregame, when my students were sharpening their pencil and working on their do now or grabbing their calculator, I was taking attendance. So these are things that you maybe want to think about. Okay, so this is a time where I'm gonna take attendance. I'm gonna see what we got. And then also want to think about, is there any pre-work that you need to have for that? So for instance, I printed out my do now. I know a lot of people like to have it on the board, but I thought it was a lot of power in having a piece of paper on for them to, as soon as they come in, so they know, like, it's kind of like, we're gonna get to it as soon as we get there. So that's just me. So this is just additional notes for yourself. Like, for instance, if you're providing pencils, okay, I need to have the pencil sharpened each day by the door, like stuff like that. So just some any mental notes that you need to make about that specific activity. Okay, so that's my first 2 minutes. Now, the next time, so I'm in high school. Now, I also want to preface it by that. So for me, high school, the bell usually rang within 5 minutes, right? So the bell, from the time the bell rings into 5 minutes, this is what I want to take place. So as soon as that bell rang, I wanted them to have 5 minutes to complete their do now. And they could also, in that window of 2 minutes of that, could be those pregame activities. So a note for myself was, I knew that I needed to have that placed by the table. Since they're completing that as soon as they come in, I want to have that by the table. So that was just a note I wrote to myself. Okay. So this is the first 5 minutes of class. Now, after that, the next 2 to 3 minutes, I wanted to recap my do now. Now, you may decide how you want to do it, do however you want to, but this is what I did. So I gave them 5 minutes to complete it. Now, the next 2 minutes, we're just going to review the actual do now. And I used, at that time, I had technology so they could see immediate feedback on how they did. And what I would do, it would also tell me, okay, 80% of my students missed a certain problem. So I would review the most highly missed problem, and I would allow them to select one that they wanted me to go over. So that's how I use that 2 to 3 minutes. We're going to review what you just did. I'm going to give you the answers, quick check, boom, boom, boom. And I'm going to go over the one that's most highly missed and one that you would like to be tested. So that is another thing. And so that's the first, I think we're at first 8 minutes. Okay. So then the next 1 to 2 minutes was usually some type of lesson intro, either connecting the prior knowledge or hooking them in to something that's hooking, like a hook to kind of launch the lesson. So that's what I did for my 1 to 2 minutes. Now, I think as I think about that part, one of the things that's important here was for me to think about how I could relate it to them and their interest. So how was I going to hook them and get them bought into what we're talking about that day? So that was something that just a note to myself. How do I make this relatable? How do I connect it to where they, excuse my French, give a damn about it? All right. So then the next 30 minutes, and this to me is like the meat. This will be the meat of my class. This is when we're actually like going through the different activities. So this is usually, if you have a high quality curriculum, this provides they provide some context on how you would execute that. So this could be modeling, practice, student engagement activities. And just a note to myself is, for this part, definitely planning is key here. Like, you want to be well planned out and really focusing on those key ideas. But that's something we'll talk about as we continue to move throughout this year. And then the last 3 to 5 minutes, it was 3 to 5 minutes, like a synthesis or some summary of that lesson. And that was kind of like my closure. So that was us possibly having a discussion. What is that question I really want to ask to get them thinking and making connections? So that was the 3 to 5 minutes. And the very last 5 minutes of my class was the cool down or the exit ticket. And this was just an opportunity for me to assess mastery of what we did. But also, one of the things I added on as I continued to teach was making sure we put our stuff up. So putting the calculators up, picking up any trash and stuff like that. Because y'all know, I wasn't the neatest teacher. I was the neatest teacher. It'll take Miss Boyd to talk about my desk in my classroom. It'll take a whole listen. It was not the neatest. But that's what I did there. So you may want to think about that. I know in elementary they say, oh, we want to do cleanup, everybody. You may want to do that. I don't know. But just these are just things to think about as you are preparing for what do I want my class to look like each day? What is that run of show? Ideally, what does that need to look like? Because it is more than having a beautiful classroom. That's something that I see a lot. It's like, oh, what supplies I need, da, da, da. That's great. But you also want to think about, okay, what's going to actually happen when these jokers walk through the door, ideally. Because an analogy you almost want to think about, when you pull up to a restaurant, you're like, oh, I'm going out, we're going on a dinner date tonight. You pull up to a restaurant. They have already pre-planned what's going to happen before you walk in the door. Like, what if you went to the restaurant, the hostess is not there? Or the waiter is not taking you to your seat, or no one's there to give you your for you to take your order. You're like, wait a minute, what kind of restaurant is this? And the same thing you want to think about in your classroom. You already want to think about before they walk in that door, ideally, what does this need to look like? What is my run of show? For the first 2 minutes, I need this to happen. The next 3 minutes, I need to get this to happen. And then just get even more specific of what happens in that time, and just notes to yourself of things to consider. So that's what we did today. We started off with a kind of a general, ideally, this is what I'd like this to look like. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. And then we got even more specific. Okay, now that we know the first quarter is dedicated to my entry routine and students doing math, okay, how long do I want that to be? What's the timeline on that? Boom, boom, boom. So that's what we want to think about as you consider preparing for your class. Now I'm gonna tag on one more thing to go with this, is arranging your class. You want your class to be a reflection of your run of show. So if you can, I would say, if you are going to school this week, I would see if I can get in my classroom this week, just to see what's going on, to see what materials you have. Okay, I got a big desk, I got 20 desks, I got 30 desks, I got carpet, I got this, so that you can know how, when you think about ideally what you want that time to look like, arrange your class to support whatever you want that run of show to be. So that's something to think about, and we can talk about as we continue. Okay, now that we got that, let's talk about systems to support the run of show, the arrangement, and systems to make sure that all that can happen. So again, thank you all for tuning in. Get out there this week, rookies, and do those run of shows, y'all. Do those run of shows. And this is, honestly, let me back up. This is really simple stuff. Like, I'm gonna tell y'all straight up, systems are not my strong suit. Like, I would rather do anything. Like, that's why I hope one day I'm going to have a virtual assistant, seriously, because I don't like paperwork, and I that's not my strength. But if I can figure out, and I'm not, listen, that ain't me. It's just, listen, it is I can do it, but it takes a little bit longer for me, and I'm okay with that. But this is, if someone as unstructured as me can do this, you certainly can do it too. And especially for those of you that are really, really organized, you can definitely do this. But these are just simple things that I did to help me get the work done and do what I need to do. But again, make it your own, do what fits you. But I'm just sharing what worked for me. And I'm not the most organized, but this right here, it definitely helped me kind of be a little bit more structured in my class. So thank you all again for tuning in. For real, I'm going there. I'm real. So this is your action step. This is what I want you to do, rookies. I want you to create your run of show. I'm going to share mine again. If you go to bit.ly/fits new teacher fits teacher bundle, then you can get a lot of resources to help you as a new teacher. We have in there, we have first day of school opening day speech script. We got a first call to parents script. We got syllabus. We got first day of school PowerPoint. We got a lot of resources in there to help you as a new teacher do what you need to do, and just practical things, like things you can implement tomorrow that'll make your job just a little bit easier. But we definitely want to provide some resources and tools so the new teachers don't quit. That's what this is all about, y'all. We ain't trying to quit this thing. And so I want you to, look, I'm still talking, but let me tell you this. So I want you to keep what I call that rookie state of mind, y'all. Y'all see it? The rookie state of mind. I don't know if y'all see it. Rookie state of mind. Well, Fitz, what's the rookie state of mind? So this is the deal. Learning something new is hard. It's challenging. And just in life in general, we kind of have to keep that rookie state of mind. Be curious, be willing to fail, be willing to grow, be willing to challenge ourselves. And that's really the deal here. So that rookie state of mind is what I say is we want to consider that the level up in our lives, it comes from the losses. I literally became a great teacher because I botched it so many times. I mean, listen, if I tell you the story of how I learned to use PowerSchool, it's so embarrassing. But you know what? I know now to go in PowerSchool to get a phone number. And I want you to keep in mind problems are a privilege and an opportunity to grow and to level up. And oftentimes, especially as us new teachers, you know, we look at problems and we say, oh, it must be something wrong with me because this shouldn't be this hard. That's okay. Hard is good because it's a privilege and an opportunity for us to level up and for us to grow and stretch ourselves. So keep that in mind. The level up is in the losses and problems are a privilege. And keep in your mind, say, I might be new to this, but I know I'm true to this because I'm in this very moment. And a lot of times in our lives, we can look at things and say, I want this to be different. This is so hard. It shouldn't be like this. But we are always exactly where we're supposed to be. We're always exactly where we're supposed to be. And if we can embrace that and say, oh, I might be new to this, but I know I'm true to this because I chose to be a teacher for a reason. I chose to make an impact. And remember, our why pushes us when the what gets hard. So just keep that in mind. I believe in each one of you. So remember, the level up is in the losses. Problems are a privilege. You might be new to this, but I know you are true to this because you are here in this very moment. I believe in each one of you. Y'all have a great day. Create those run shows. I want you to drop them in the comments. If you got to run a show, I want to see that thing. Let's go. Send it to me personally. I'll give you some feedback on it. Fitz@mentalfitness.com. Let's do this. So I believe in each one of you. Y'all have a great week and we'll see you again 5:15, 5:30, 40-ish in there sometime. But we'll see you in next week. And I'm out. And y'all keep that rookie state of mind.